This Saturday on October 18th, AEW presents its annual WrestleDream pay-per-view from the Chaffetz Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. One of AEW's larger pay-per-view events of the year. Could we see some major surprises in the form of several high-profile returns at the pay-per-view this weekend in St. Louis? In this countdown video, we're going to give you 5 possible major returns that could take place at AEW WrestleDream. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. And in today's countdown video, we are going to be discussing possible major returns that could be set to take place this weekend at the AEW WrestleDream pay-per-view. As I mentioned in the intro of this one, AEW WrestleDream takes place this Saturday, October 18th, 2025 at the Chaffetz Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. And could AEW President and CEO Tony Khan have some major surprises up his sleeve in the form of major returns? Let's get into who could be set to make their return this weekend. Let's begin with the Rated R superstar himself, Adam Copeland. Now, we haven't seen Cope for a little bit of time on AEW television because there was a bit of concern, wasn't there, about Cope's future in All Elite Wrestling, if he was going to even be staying All Elite, and actually, could he be going back to WWE? Was he going to be a part of John Cena's retirement tour? This was around the time that John Cena had started to do sort of tributes to his former rivals in his matches, and he did a spear. He did very sort of Adam Copeland / Edge taunts in the corner, did the spear, and then it was reciprocated by Adam Copeland at AEW All Out, wasn't there, with him doing the same thing. He did the 5-knuckle shuffle, and everyone thought, oh my goodness, they're kind of talking to each other through companies, and John Cena had put on his Instagram page a picture of Adam Copeland, and then on the September 24th episode of AEW Dynamite, there was an update with Cope disappearing from AEW TV. Now, if you haven't really been paying too much of attention, Copeland and Christian Cage, they've recently reunited. They teamed up for Forbidden Door for the first time in around 14 years. They then had a match at AEW All Out against FTR, and they won that match, but afterwards, it didn't go well for them because FTR absolutely decimated those close to Adam Copeland in Christian Cage, but also his wife, Beth Copeland. Now, on that episode of AEW Dynamite that I mentioned, that took place on September 24th, Renee Paquette was shown outside of the room of Cope and Christian, where the Rated R superstar arrived, and Paquette stopped him for an update on Beth Copeland, but he couldn't give any update and left. Cope went inside the room, started packing his stuff. That's when Cage asked him about what was going on. Cope, looking worried, replied, quote, "I don't know, but man, I can't keep doing this. It's affecting my family, and this isn't the first time it has happened before. I can't keep doing this to them. It's my family, so I gotta go, and I don't know if I'm gonna come back." Now, Cage replied that he didn't really have family anymore, so Cope should go and take care of this. It was a very emotional moment, and again, it led to speculation that maybe Cope was done with AEW and he wasn't going to be coming back, and he was on his way to WWE. Now, in reality, he's just taking some time off. He's not leaving All Elite Wrestling by any stretch of the imagination. It led to speculation he could be going back to WWE, being part of this John Cena retirement tour, but a couple of issues with that theory. Copeland's AEW contract is believed to run until sometime next year in 2026. In addition, a new report from PW Insider claimed that Copeland was actually leaving to film season 3 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Copeland plays Ares on the Disney Plus series. It's the same role he's had for the first 2 seasons of the series. So, yeah, he's not going to be going anywhere. And we're now into that territory of, so how long was he expected to be away for? As I mentioned, that was at the end of September. It's been nearly 2-3 weeks since then. Amount of time that it probably would take maybe to film a role in a TV series. Again, depends how many episodes he's in, how much he's featured into that role, etc., etc. But he could just come back just for the pay-per-view. Now, as for what match he could possibly be involved in, sometimes there doesn't necessarily have to even be a match, does there? It can just be a segment. You can have a situation where maybe Christian Cage is getting attacked by FTR. Christian Cage comes out, FTR come out, and that's where Adam Copeland makes his return. There's many a different way that this one could go, so I wouldn't be too shocked if we saw the Rated R superstar return as soon as this Saturday at WrestleDream. Now, before we move on to the next name on this countdown list, a reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our great affiliates. That includes NordVPN. You can see right there in the sidebar. It's also in the video description below me, pinned in the comment section. If you're in the United States, you can get up to 77% off plus 3 months extra free. Now, obviously, we know all of the details when it comes to getting a VPN to get the most out of your WWE content. Obviously, if you have a VPN, you can change your location to an international territory like here in the UK. You can watch all of your WWE content on Netflix, Raw, SmackDown, PLEs, John Cena's retirement match for free on YouTube on Saturday night's main event. It's a pretty good deal. We're talking about AEW here, though. When it comes to AEW, you can also utilize a VPN there as well. Over here in the UK, we watch, or at least I do, watch all of my AEW content through Triller TV. I've got an AEW Plus subscription, and that means for, I think it's like a $5 a month, I can watch all episodes of AEW Dynamite, all episodes of AEW Collision. In addition to that, I can go watch the back catalogue of all of those episodes that have ever taken place of Dynamite to Collision, plus past pay-per-views, and you can do the same. All you've got to do is get a VPN, change your location, you can save yourself some money, you can support the channel in the process, and you can watch a lot of different pro wrestling. Hey, it's a wrestler's fan's dream. So if you haven't already, utilize that in the video description, or you can scan the QR code. Let's move on to the next return that could be taking place at AEW WrestleDream and talk about Hikaru Shida. Now, we haven't actually seen Hikaru Shida compete on AEW television in close to a year. Her last appearance actually took place on a November episode, the November 20th, 2024 episode of AEW Dynamite. Took place in Reading, Pennsylvania, and she was defeated by Chris Statlander. Now, since then, she's only actually competed in matches in Japan. She's kind of been busy in Japan. She had to sort out visa issues, and she's also been doing stuff outside of the ring in Japan. There was a little bit of sort of confusion that maybe she had retired or something like that, and that's not necessarily the case. She's actually in a play at the moment. She's been absent from the AEW stage for almost about a year, as I mentioned, but she has been active on the Japanese wrestling circuit. She's participated in stage production of a wrestler preparing to hang up their boots, and it led to people saying, oh, is this like a reflection of your real life, of your real career? And actually, she said on her YouTube channel, it was just a case of, it was not a case of art imitating life. She said, quote, "It's about a wrestler, the stage play. The title was Retirement, and this is the story of the wrestler who just announced her retirement. That's me." Actually, after the show, many fans asked me, like, are you retiring or is it just a play? And of course, it's just a play. I'm not retiring. So she made sure to stress that, no, not retiring or anything like that. In fact, she said, not only am I not retiring, I've just renewed my visa and contract, so I'm not retiring, but fans asked me, so that means my acting was too good. So she said that she's sticking around. She's actually just signed a new contract. She's just sorted out her visa. So really, she could be back on AEW television anytime soon. And we do know there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on the women's division right now in All Elite Wrestling. Why? Because they're introducing more titles, the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships. We've also got a situation whereby the last person she faced off on AEW television, Chris Statlander, she's currently the AEW Women's World Champion. And we know, of course, that Shida has had the longest run as a world champion in AEW during her first reign as AEW Women's World Champion. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility that we could maybe see Hikaru Shida return. Maybe she gets involved in the Statlander Timeless Tony Storm match at AEW WrestleDream. Maybe it's just a case of her confronting the winner. We'll have to wait and see, but I wouldn't rule out Shida making a return this weekend. Next up, could we see Marco Stunt back in All Elite Wrestling? Now, hear me out on this one. Marco Stunt actually is an AEW original. He made his debut at the inaugural AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view in 2019 as part of the Casino Battle Royal. He eventually signed with AEW. He found allies in Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and they became Jurassic Express, and they were a very popular tag team. Now, eventually, he did find his way out of AEW. He was released from All Elite Wrestling in June of 2022, and he did make a brief return to AEW in 2024, actually. It was in July 2024. He returned on AEW Collision. He accepted a TNT Championship Open Challenge when Jack Perry was the champion. He was unsuccessful in that match, and later on in a backstage interview, Marco was interviewed, but it was cut short when his other former Jurassic Express member, Luchasaurus, then known as Killswitch, interrupted him, and everyone thought, oh, is this going to lead to something? It didn't lead to any more appearances in AEW. In fact, in November of the same year, Stunt announced his retirement from professional wrestling. Now, he did did later on explain it, saying it was largely because of physical issues. Speaking to Pluggo of Love of Wrestling, he said, quote, "So it's something that I've been trying to avoid for a while. I've been dealing with a lot of lower back issues, and I found out why now. It's just something that I've been trying to put off. I knew it was bound to happen eventually, but I thought I might have a few more years in me and have one more good run. I went to the doctor, they did a bunch of diagnostic tests and looked into a whole bunch of stuff for me. He said they noticed that my right hip is rotating inwards and causing my tailbone to be shifted off to the side. It's just causing a whole bunch of pain. If I were to continue doing it with how my hip already is, I will say I'm already short right. I'm a small person, but my right leg, because of the hip thing, is shorter than my left now, which is a normal thing. A lot of people have shorter legs or one leg shorter than the other, but that's the reason for mine. It's just going to continue to do that. So I don't have all the strength in my right leg anymore. I have a good amount of strength. They caught it at the right time. We caught it early enough where I don't have to have surgery next month or anything, but we're going to see what we can do. But their recommendation was my long-term health, to step away from wrestling. There is a possibility of being paralyzed. That was a wake-up call. I've got family now. Not everybody knows that, but I've got a family now. I've got a daughter. The last 2 years have been a whirlwind of great stuff, and obviously there's been some not so great stuff that's happened. I'm in a great place in my life, regardless of having to step away from the ring physically. I'm happy where things are going. I'm happy where things are looking. I'm excited to have a family and to grow a family and to focus on that as much as I can while I'm still doing as much as I can with wrestling. So yeah, it's an interesting one because of course it looks like physically he can't do it anymore, but he was never really always got a physical guy with Jurassic Express in the first place, and he could come back. And obviously with Jack Perry and Luchasaurus recently reuniting, they're challenging, of course, off against the Young Bucks at AEW WrestleDream. The winners receive $500,000 in cash. It's one of those cash matches. Maybe it's a situation where Marco Stunt comes back and they just get the band fully back together. They've got Tarzan Boy, they've got Jungle Boy Jack Perry, they've got Luchasaurus. It's not complete if they don't have Marco Stunt, and he's just their manager. He's just their person that's at ringside. Maybe occasionally he takes a bump or something like that, but mainly it's just about the package and him being there. So given that this is Jurassic Express's first pay-per-view match back as a tag team, I don't think you can rule out the possibility of Marco Stunt arriving and completing the trio that is known as Jurassic Express. Next up, could we see Sting in AEW once again? Well, of course, Sting is contracted to AEW despite his retirement. Sting is still a contracted member of All Elite Wrestling. He's got what is an AEW equivalent of a Legends deal. And a big featured match at AEW WrestleDream, of course, is Darby Allin facing off against the leaders of the Death Riders in Jon Moxley in an I Quit match, which of course means anything goes. There's no pinfalls, there's no submissions, there's no disqualifications. The only way to win is to make your opponent say, I quit. Something that, of course, Darby Allin doesn't do. Something that Jon Moxley has done once or twice, when it comes to losing the AEW World Championship to Hangman Page. Didn't say I quit, but taps out. He's quit a couple of times, but still, this is going to be a physical match, a bloody match, a violent match, and of course, being involving the Death Riders, there's going to be a lot of bells and whistles, isn't there? There's going to be outside interference, and how does Darby Allin neutralize that outside interference? Yes, maybe Bryan Danielson could get involved, but he's largely sworn off doing that and is going to remain impartial as a commentator at ringside. Maybe it's time for Sting to arrive back in AEW. Of course, he's retired, but that hasn't stopped him getting physical since his retirement. We saw it at AEW All In back in 2024 at Wembley Stadium. We know that Sting can arrive when needed and when called upon and get physical. So if we see the Death Riders and maybe other members of the Young Bucks people, whether it be Brandon Cutler or someone, get involved, maybe Sting comes out with his baseball bat and neutralizes all of them in an effort to make it an even playing field, and Darby Allin get one of the biggest victories of his career over the former AEW World Champion in Moxley. I think that might be possible. We still haven't seen Sting, I think, on AEW television this year. So many times when we thought he was going to arrive, he hasn't, whether it be at AEW All in Texas, and he lives in the state of Texas, or Forbidden Door, and people thought he's definitely going to arrive now. Maybe AEW WrestleDream in St. Louis is the perfect place for it. And finally, is this weekend the time we see Le Champion, the first ever AEW World Champion Chris Jericho, back on AEW programming? There is so much talk right now about Jericho and a possible departure from AEW. This has been a thing that's been going on for months. And as time goes on and Jericho doesn't return to AEW television, more and more people think His contract's going to expire at the end of the year, and then he's going back to WWE for one final run before he decides to call it a day. That has only been exacerbated in the last sort of 24 hours because Jericho made an announcement just in the last 24 hours that's led to a lot of people saying he's going from AEW. Now, as I mentioned, Jericho's contract with AEW is currently set to expire by the end of 2025. Jericho has been absent from AEW TV since this past April. This is when, of course, he lost the Ring of Honor World Championship to Bandito at Dynasty, Mask vs. title. Following episode of Dynamite, he called out the learning tree and said he needed to go away from AEW. We haven't seen him since. He went on tour with Fozzy. He's been available, but there's been no creative plans for him to come back. Maybe because there's a feeling he's going to WWE. There have been reports suggesting that people in AEW think he's going back to WWE. Jericho's spoken about going back to WWE. He's liking posts on social media about going back to WWE. Now, as I mentioned, he made an announcement yesterday that next year's Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea cruise event will be taking place on November 7th to November 11th, 2026, starting in Miami, Florida, and traveling to Bimini, Bahamas. Now, Jericho announced the current talent scheduled to appear on this upcoming cruise, and it was very interesting to note that no AEW talent were listed to be appearing on this upcoming cruise. All of the past Jericho Cruise events had featured AEW talents, so people said, right, this is maybe the biggest indication yet he's leaving AEW and going back to WWE. But this is Chris Jericho. He is someone that does think 2 or 3 steps ahead. He does think, if I do this, people will react this way, people will think this, and that's exactly what I want them to think. So just because Jericho doesn't have any AEW talent announced for his cruise, that doesn't mean he's not going to WWE. That doesn't mean he's leaving AEW. That might be part of the grand plan. Just when they think I'm going to go to WWE, that's when I make my return to AEW programming. Wouldn't be the most ridiculous concept in the world. Tony Khan, he's been very vocal about wanting to keep Jericho. Speaking last month on QFM 96's Torg and Elliott show, while not providing any details as to what Jericho's future in the company may be, Khan expressed enthusiasm about possibly having him back in the mix someday. He said, quote, Chris Jericho has been here since the very beginning. I have so much great respect for Chris Jericho. I do have to say I would love to have Chris Jericho in AEW anytime. And yeah, we absolutely want Chris Jericho back in AEW and hopefully soon. He's been great with us and he's been with us since the very first event, very first AEW World Champion. And Chris is a huge part of the history of AEW and still in great shape and still a great wrestler. So could this be part of a wider plan? Is it a case of Jericho felt the need to go away, reinvent himself, tease he's going back to WWE, and when he makes his return, it's going to be even more surprising, different character? I mean, it's probably the most desired people have had to see Jericho in years, so maybe it's working. Maybe now is exactly the right time for him to return to AEW television. We'll see at WrestleDream this weekend. But there you go, guys. There are 5 possible major returns that could take place this weekend at AEW WrestleDream. A reminder, we will be live with a watch-along and a post-show for the pay-per-view this Saturday, so be sure to join us when we're live on YouTube. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.